Welcome to another devlog. I'm making a game about being part of a medieval community with procedurally generated quests, stories, and villages. In this development arc, I'll be focusing on adding a day-night cycle to the game. Breaking this down, it includes several things: updating the sun, rotation, color strength, tweaking the environment settings, and handling the villages. Along with this, I balance the rest of this arc with some bug fixes, new content, and other improvements. I use Notion to plan this out, and here's what that process looks like. This board is a filtered view which only shows the cards for this arc. Each column represents a different type of work, where the highest priority cards are at the top. Programming, game design, asset making. This varied set of tasks is part of what I really enjoy about being an indie game developer. Okay, let's get started. For the first part, I was inspired by the amazing work of Mika Games. To handle various values changing throughout the day, like the sunlight color, I sample a manually configured set of curves based on the current time of day. However, after some initial progress, I realized there were 3 existing features I first had to update: improve shadows, including sunlight color in the cell shader, and including point lights in the cell shader. Since this change of light direction will make shadows dynamic, I needed to fix them being very jittery, which was very distracting. To understand what was causing this, I read up on shadows and have to thank Alzarana for what could only be described as an essay on Reddit. The solution was actually pretty simple. It was just to update the shadow biases and add cascades. Then I needed to update my cell shader to take into account the current color of the light. This is mainly because the light goes orangey during dawn and dusk. At the moment, point lights are not actually taken into account in my cell shader, so I also played around with a few different options of how this can be implemented. As you can see, much better. Here's what everything looks like put together. And finally, I shrouded the village in fog, which really adds to the mood throughout the whole cycle. So that's the sunlight and environment done. Now onto the other parts of the arc and then handling the villages. But before that, let's take a break. I improved the detail in the blacksmith area by adding flowers, logs, stump, hatchet. Oh wait, this is a lumberjack area now. So here's what the new lumberjack area looks like. As I was working with the lighting in the new area, I experimented with different camera angles and realized it's a much better fit for the game to position the player's camera lower and facing forward. This gives a better adventure genre vibe like Zelda, as it allows the player to see cool scenery from a distance and it feels more immersive. I also want to work on improving the various elements of crafting, specifically 3 things: improving the crafting recipes, allowing the villager to craft things for fun, and improving the crafting special effect. The first 2 things were fairly straightforward in terms of implementation, but the third one is a bit more artistic and open-ended. At the moment, the crafting special effect is basically a cross between some smoke and a spell animation. This was inspired by Animal Crossing's crafting, so I started by adding a script to spew out ingredients and came up with a couple of variations. As an experiment, I tried asking the community for feedback on which one they thought looked better. Turns out, the community had a lot to say. In fact, the debate was practically more dividing than the 2020 US election. Jokes aside, there were some pretty awesome ideas and I want to thank everyone involved. Basically, the left one sends the right message and the right one just has a much better animation, which a lot of people preferred. Based on this, I decided to keep the right one and also implement the following changes: spew the ingredients in a cone rather than sideways, and also drop some things which are not even related to the recipe for fun. Returning to day and night cycle, the last thing I want to add for now is the entering and exiting house mechanic. This should be pretty straightforward, as I just have to animate the villager, animate the door, add sound effects, link it together, frame it such that the animations match up and the villager doesn't hit the door. Basically, this took longer than expected. Most of these parts, like animating the villager and animating the door, were fine. In fact, I actually made a small practice scene with simplified villager code to speed up iteration, which actually worked really well to test the animation of events. The integration, however, was a different story, to put it lightly. One of the tough challenges was making sure that the animation was realistic. This meant aligning the hand with the handle, whilst at the same time not wanting to smash the villager's head through the door, as that's not very immersive. Some things which helped were widening the gap between hands and making the door thick. This problem was particularly tricky to solve on the exiting animation, which was completely mismatched. To fix it, the simplest, most configurable solution I came up with was to sub-animate the villager's position and push them forward during the opening door animation. But wait, couldn't you have avoided this by opening the door inwards and not have all the extra overhead of animating it? Yes. To complete the cozy atmosphere of a medieval village at night, I wanted to light up the windows when the villagers enter. And the finishing touch on these lights was adding bloom to the post-processing, making the windows glow at night. Really nice. Now, for the crux of the biscuit, the heart of the matter, the icing on the cake. I want to add a tall hill the player could hike so they could have a place to stand and watch the village from afar. Alright, here we go. Thanks for watching. For weekly updates, you can follow the subreddit or Twitter. If you want to support the game or channel, check out some of my art. In the next devlog, I'll be tackling creating emergent behavior, so stay tuned.